Hi guys, I'm Jen from KetoCookingWins.com, and today I've got a treat for you. One of my personal favorite soups, and certainly without a doubt one of the most popular soups with all my readers, is my shrimp and chipotle chowder. It's ready in about 30 minutes, and look at this. It is so loaded with goodness. Big chunks of shrimp, celery, red bell pepper, onions, carrots, skip the carrots if you're doing strict keto, bacon, and a broth that is good to the very last drop. If you only make one soup, make this one. It's got a kick from the chipotle, it's easy to make, and it's really super delicious. Stick around, I'm going to show you how to make this tasty soup from start to finish. So the foundation to any great soup, especially this shrimp and chipotle chowder, is flavor, and building flavor in layers as you go. And the first thing that we're going to do to get flavor into this soup is by cooking some bacon. I'm heating up Mr. Tasty. We're going to pop our bacon in and start getting the fat out of the bacon and cooking down the bacon so that it can go into our chowder. While this is cooking down, I'm going to run down some of the other ingredients in our chowder. I've got chicken stock. I prefer to use my homemade chicken broth or chicken bone broth, and I'll pop a link to that recipe down below. We've got some heavy cream, chipotle in adobo. This potent stuff is basically smoked jalapenos that are then in a tomato-based sauce. There's serious flavor in this. I've got some chopped garlic, not too much, just enough to help again build that flavor. Let's see, we've got some shrimp. Let me talk to you a little bit about the shrimp. Today I'm using cooked shrimp. You can use cooked shrimp, you can use raw shrimp. If you use cooked shrimp, you don't want to cook the soup out a whole bunch with the shrimp in it, or you're going to end up with little curly discs of rubber because they'll just be overcooked. Yeah, my bacon is pretty meaty. I don't have a lot of fat in here. Time for some butter. You could also use some cooking oil, but butter is great because we need enough fat in here to help cook out the veggies. Speaking of veggies, we've got about a cup of yellow onion, a cup of celery, a cup of diced carrot, and for some color and a little bit of sweetness, I've got some diced red bell pepper. So our bacon has just about given up as much fat as he's going to, and that butter is in there helping out. I'm going to add the onions. Onions and celery go in next because they take the longest to cook out. So this is going to take a few minutes. Let me get my celery in here as well. All right, guys, so give me a couple minutes to cook out this celery and onion, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. Our onions and celery have cooked down a little bit. The onion is translucent. There's a little bit of brown on this, but not too much. You don't want big, ugly, brown, overcooked veggies in your soup because the soup is a lovely, creamy, slightly pink color, and you don't want big flecks of brown in it from the overcooked onion. So if you find your veggies are getting too brown, just turn the heat down a little bit and let them cook out. Okay, so next we're going to pop in the garlic. I didn't put the garlic in earlier because it would have burned. Garlic doesn't need that long to cook out. And my pan's looking a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a bit more butter to it. Don't be afraid of the butter. The butter helps make everything better. And you don't want your veggies to be too dry because then that's when the caramelization really starts to happen and they get too brown. So lovely pale veggies are what we're looking for in this soup. The onion will take a good 5 minutes anyway to cook out, so just be patient and it'll work its magic. Okay, so next I'm going to add my carrots. I'm not afraid of a couple carrots, but it's personal choice. If you're doing strict keto, leave them out, easy enough. The carrots will cook in the broth as we simmer it down. Okay, so now we're getting ready to add our chicken broth. I make mine from scratch and freeze it in containers. But if you don't have that, you don't have freezer room, try to buy the low sodium or even no sodium added chicken broth. That way you can adjust the seasoning to suit yourself. Okay, so we're waiting for our soup to come up to a boil. In the meantime, I'm going to add a bay leaf, extra flavor, and some thyme. About half a teaspoon of thyme. Thyme and cream are a lovely combination of flavor. I'm using dried thyme. You have fresh thyme, that's great. You can just put in the whole sprig or a couple sprigs of whole thyme and just fish them out at the end. If you're using dried thyme, it's a lot stronger. So only use about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of dried thyme, depending on how much you like in terms of its flavor. I'm also going to add the chipotle. Let that in there. I've chopped it up roughly. Chipotle does have a bit of a kick to it, so be careful. If you're not familiar with its spice intensity or you don't really care for it that much, start with just about a teaspoon. I know people have told me that they've put 2 or 3 chipotles in it because they like it spicy. So hey, all the best to you. If you want it spicy, kick it up a few notches with a bit more chipotle. As I said earlier, I used about a tablespoon. That'll give it a nice under layer of heat without being, really spicy. Okay, so while this is coming up to a boil, I did chop my shrimp up into pieces. Let me tell you a little bit about these shrimp. Look for peeled and deveined shrimp. Whoever figured out how to peel and devein the shrimp and then sell them was genius. You can also get them zippered, which is the shrimp have been sliced down the back through the shell, so they're really easy, and then they're also deveined, so they're really easy just to pull the shell off and then work with the shrimp. I think those are called easy peel. So you either want to find peeled and deveined shrimp or easy peel shrimp. So hang on, I'm going to let our chicken broth and the veggies cook for about 10 minutes and to release all the flavor and all the veg, and then I'll be back to finish up our shrimp and chipotle chowder. Okay, so our soup has been simmering for about 10 minutes or so. We just want to give all the flavors a chance to really come together. We want to let the carrots cook out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add the bell pepper at this point. And that is going to drop the temperature of the soup a little bit, so we wait for it to come back up to a simmer. So remember, don't overcook that bell pepper. You want it to have a little bit of texture to it. And that's one of the wonderful things about this particular chowder is it's just got so many lovely flavorful chunks in it. If you were making a cream soup, you would let like a cream of celery soup or something like that. You would let the vegetables cook until they're super, super soft. A chowder, you want the veggies to have a little bit more texture to them. Not crunch, but texture. Okay, and getting ready to add our shrimp. Remember, my shrimp are cooked already, pre-cooked. It just happens to be what was on sale at the store. So they're not going to take very long in this soup. I don't want them to turn into little hard, nasty chunks of shrimp. So we'll just let this heat through and come back up to a boil. You do, however, want to boil it just to make sure that you bring those shrimp up to a temperature that's safe enough to eat. You don't want to add the cream too soon in the cooking process because you don't need to. The cream adds a lovely creamy finish to it and a lovely color to the soup. And you'll see there's a tint of pink to the soup that comes part from the shrimp and part from the chipotle. There we go. And in goes our cream. Using a full cup of cream in there. Delicious. Look at that. That is what I call deliciousness. Don't forget to fish out the bay leaves before you serve it. Nobody wants to bite into that. And if you did use thyme on a sprig, pull those out too. I'm just going to let this come back up to the boil just for a minute or two to make sure it's nice and piping hot. And then I'm going to check it for salt and add a bit of pepper. Because we use no sodium, or I use no sodium chicken broth, it is going to take a wee bit of salt in order to get it where I'd like it. So, almost. And I will be right back in a minute once this has started to boil again. Alright, so the shrimp and chipotle chowder has just come up to a boil, and I've let it boil for just about a minute or two just to make sure all those flavors are still working through. We're going to add a good pinch of salt. It's going to take probably about a teaspoon all told, and I cracked in some fresh pepper just a few minutes ago. Alright, just give it a test because you don't want to serve soup that's low on salt. That's got a kick to it. Needs a little bit more salt, but not much. Alright, my soup is boiling. I don't want it boiling too hard. I'll turn it off. Move it just out to the side a little bit so you can see. I've got a cute little soup bowl here. Just and the chunks in this of shrimp and bacon, onions and celery, and the red bell pepper adds such a lovely burst of color. Look at that. This is some kind of good, let me tell you, and there's so much flavor in this. That chipotle just gives it a punch, but it's not overwhelming, and it goes so nicely with the creamy shrimpy flavor. Spicy, creamy, the thyme is lovely in there. You get the sweetness from the shrimp, the salty smokiness from the bacon. If you only cook one soup from scratch, make it this one, because this shrimp and chipotle chowder, which I've been cooking for 20 plus years, is so very worth it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I made shrimp and chipotle chowder from scratch. It takes about 30 minutes from start to finish, and you too can have a big old pot of spicy, smoky, shrimpy goodness. Shrimp and chipotle chowder from KetoCookingWins.com. I'm Jen, Chef Jen. Thanks for hanging out with me today.